Hello, everyone. My name is Jordyn Smith, and I am the voice and the astrologer behind the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and the Instagram and the website, all called Nonconformist Conscience. This week, on the 28th, we have a Taurus lunar eclipse. So let's really break this down so we can all consciously work with this in a productive way, hopefully. First off, a lunar eclipse is whenever there is a full moon happening on the nodal axis or close to the nodal axis, so the lunar nodes. A full moon is whenever the sun opposes the moon. This is different than a solar eclipse. A solar eclipse is whenever a new moon happens close to the nodal axis. So, whereas solar eclipses can be about initiation and initiation of a whole cycle of what it is we're supposed to be working on as a way to self-actualize, a lunar eclipse is where we are wanting to culminate emotional dynamics. This is why eclipses speak to karmic endings and karmic beginnings, whereas a karmic beginning would be more having to deal with the solar eclipse and new moon, planting seeds, all of that good stuff. And the karmic endings can be initiated during the lunar eclipse, the full moon. Something's wanting to culminate. And it's indicative also of the moon opposing the sun. This is really the halfway mark of whenever there was, the sun and the moon were conjunct 6 months prior to, during a Taurus new moon. So this is like a karmic portal that we've been in for the past 2 weeks. A lot of things are surfacing and wanting to come to a head as a way for us to culminate long-standing emotional dynamics. And for this eclipse, this is really highlighting our relationships. This is because this eclipse is happening on the Libra Aries nodal axis, but this is a Taurus new full moon, meaning that it's opposing a sun in Scorpio, which is conjunct the south node in Libra, which Pluto, I've been speaking about this for quite some time, is squaring these nodes. It's squaring this south node. This is the resolution node. So there has been this emphasis to really look at all of our relational dynamics pertaining to how we structure our reality, how that structures and defines how we do relationships. It's looking at our conditioning. These are all Capricorn dynamics. Our conditioning around relationships. Is it creating balance and harmony, or is this creating imbalances? Pluto and Capricorn squaring the south node and Libra is really also about how do you meet your own needs? How do you claim your own sense of natural authority? Are you able to ask and answer your own questions, or do you project expectations onto others? Are you able to meet your own needs? This is about how do we give? How do we receive? Are you able to make correct judgment within your relationships? So I wanted to highlight that just a little bit because this is being drawn into this lunar eclipse. So let's now just break down everything. The sun and the moon is in opposition. The sun is in Scorpio. It is ruled by that Pluto and Capricorn. And the moon is in Taurus, ruled by Venus and Virgo. So this lunar eclipse is ruled by Venus and Virgo. But this is an opposition. When we have oppositions, that means that something has reached a head. It's reached a limit, and we're needing to throw it off or to oppose it. as a way to create and further our evolutionary growth. And through throwing that off, we can then integrate new ways that can create more balance and harmony right now. So let's really take this even a layer further, which I'm going to do here because there's so much Scorpio energy in this chart, even though this is a Taurus lunar eclipse. So we really need to peel back these layers to understand the depth of what this is talking about. So the sun in Scorpio ruled by Pluto in Capricorn. The sun is about where we integrate life, where we self-actualize. And the sun in Scorpio is wanting us to get to the bottom of all of our psychological and emotional dynamics. And with Pluto technically still in a square to this sun. Oh, my nose, my allergies. Sorry, guys. With Pluto technically square to the sun and in Capricorn and ruling the sun, we can see that it's really looking at the depths and penetrating and getting to the bottom of what constitutes our inner security. How we have defined that through our conditioning. Capricorn, how do you understand what constitutes your inner security? A lot can be coming up right now around what it is that we are needing to do right now to really further our evolutionary growth and to take responsibility and own our sense of authority in order to forge on, during this time. So it's really about asking ourselves these deep scorpionic questions of, how have I been getting my needs met? Have I been able to discern and have correct judgment whenever it comes to who I'm in relationship with? Are there power dynamics? A lot can be coming up for people right now revolving around a lack of authority, of power dynamics, or a sense of, I feel betrayal, abandoned. I don't feel trust in my relationships. I don't know if I can even trust myself. And this is really this call, the square is a call to act on really taking responsibility for your own evolutionary growth, Scorpio, and strengthening your soul through recentering to it right now, Scorpio. So this sun is opposing, well, let me backtrack. Because the sun is, moving out of a conjunction, but still technically conjunct the South Node in Libra. And that is ruled by Venus and Virgo as well. This is really about, are there things coming up around your relationships, around projected expectations, projected outcomes? Are there imbalances happening? Are there power dynamics happening that are creating imbalances? Are you being able to listen to another where they're coming from? Are they being able to listen to you where you come from? This is like a time of reckoning to culminate these long-standing dynamics. And the call is to really, in order to take ownership of our sovereignty, which is really never lost. That's an illusion. Okay. If we're always whole unto ourselves. The illusion is that we lose that through conditioning, whether it be societal, religious, familial, or cultural. This is about really understanding how you are whole unto yourself. The need to ground within that dynamic and to view oneself as an equal and to view others as an equal, and to look at where that dynamic might not be occurring. And are you having discernment around this? With the South Node being ruled by Venus and Virgo, this is a time where we can heal these old dynamics, but we have to not deny. We cannot deny our relationship to ourselves, or what it is that we are inwardly understanding. What is the inward call to do? Are you denying that? Are you making excuses? This is really going to be highlighted and emphasized, because now we can pull in that moon. That moon is in Taurus, opposing that sun. A moon in Taurus is about looking at your emotional security and how it's affected your sense of self-esteem, your ability to listen to your inner voice, to be able to be self-sufficient, to understand your own natural resources as a way to survive, as a way to know who you are. With the Taurus dynamic in the mix with the Libra South Node, there can be where we are needing to throw off, seeing as this is a Moon-Sun opposition, where we have lost our individuality in a relationship, where we might have self-abandoned, and then to look at the inner psychological and emotional dynamics as to why. Scorpio, it is about why. Why? Why is this happening? What is going on? Because the moon in Taurus is ruled by Venus in the sign of Virgo, we are looking at what is wanting to be analyzed and what is wanting to be self-improved upon within our inner relationship to ourselves, especially if we're seeing imbalances occurring where we've lost the sense of who we are, or we've been abandoning our own values, our own needs, or on the flip side, if we've never even been in touch with them through social, familial, religious, or cultural conditioning. This is a time to really get to the bottom and to understand why cycles keep persisting. It's like with this Plutonian Scorpionic dynamic going on, there is a soul reckoning. This is about on a soul level testing ourselves. Are you in the field of self-determination, or are you in the sense of futility? Like, what's the point? This is a time to really ground into your own knowing of who you are, Taurus, and your own sense of authority, natural authority. And this helps us to emotionally mature. So the need to really re-enter fractures, emotional fractures of where we have felt so wounded, so hurt, so betrayed, and to understand the core dynamics of why, so we can oppose that, so we can throw it off. So with Venus and Virgo, we can heal. We can exhaust these dynamics. Jupiter is, technically in a conjunction with the moon in Taurus. They're both in Taurus. Again, Venus and Virgo, the ruler. Jupiter is about expanding upon the knowledge that we already have. It's about tapping into our intuition, and with it being in Taurus, the call to really listen to that inner voice, that inner wellspring of what it is we're needing to do right now, and to not deny it, Venus and Virgo, and instead to take it step by step and to have faith that it's going to work out. And it will help each one of us individually reconnect with the ability to trust oneself instead of projecting all types of dynamics onto someone else as a way to get our needs met. And this doesn't even have to be intimate relationships. There's Libra involved in this. This is like, how are your dynamics with your friends? How is your dynamic with people at your job? How are your dynamics with your family? Also, who are you being intimate with? Did you have discernment around this? Have things been coming up for you where you wish you had listened to yourself because you would have been right, and now you are being presented with the truth of the situation? For a lot of people right now, there can be experiences of disillusionment because Pluto is sextile Neptune. That is retrograde. And Neptune is the ruler of Saturn. and Saturn is the ruler of Pluto. So let me break that down a little bit. Saturn being the ruler of Pluto, I've been saying this pulls in this energy of really, if we're wanting to be self-sufficient and to ground within our relationship to ourselves, but we're needing to culminate a long-standing dynamics, Saturn in Pisces is about really dissolving and breaking down old structures within our consciousness, old ways of how we've been conditioned, old ideals revolving around our relationships, revolving around life in general. It's about redefining, seeing as Venus is here and, you know, she's trining Uranus and Taurus. She's ruled by, Uranus and Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is ruled by a Mercury, which is opposing Jupiter and the moon. And it's also in a balsamic conjunction with Mars. So Neptune here is, I'm going to back up a little bit and I'll break all of this down because I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself here. There's just so much to talk about. Neptune and Pisces here is the ruler of that Saturn. And if Saturn is about culminating and dissolving old structures within our consciousness, old ideals on a collective scale, it's about dissolving old man-made social constructs and laws that are not in alignment with natural or universal law. This is, you know, there's this look at what's going on in society right now. But on a personal level, it's about really being confronted with our ideals. And Neptune, its ruler, is also retrograde, and it is in conjunct the South Node in Libra. And so for some, there can be disillusionment that is coming right now because they've denied reality or they've denied the truth of some type of situation, and it's wanting to culminate. And so a crisis can happen as a way to have the self-refinement and the self-adjustment that Venus and Virgo is wanting us all to have right now. It can help us to realign and to reground with ourself and our sovereignty and our own inner sense of authority. So this can really highlight where we've been giving ultimate meaning to something outside of ourselves if we have, and it can have this disillusioning factor. But really, as much as it can hurt, and we're not here to suffer, there is a reason for that dynamic, and it helps to realign us if we're consciously working with it. Because there's, you know, we can get into sticky situations where all of a sudden we realize someone's not who we thought that they were, or we've been denying the truth. I've experienced both. Like, I have had someone present themselves and I have denied that. Or I've bought into an illusion of who a person is presenting themselves to be. And I can speak from personal experience. Crisis always ensues. Crisis ensues when we don't listen to our inner voice. And so this is a dynamic that is playing out right now. And so there's a readjustment that can occur through this. This is, again, dissolving any type of ideals. And it's so we can throw off old wounds, old power dynamics, old betrayals, and to really ground into our relationship to ourself. Going back to this Venus in a trine to Uranus, there is something at an evolutionary standstill for some. This is what we call a first quarter trine. And it can be where something's come to a halt. To me, this looks like where we could be denying the truth and not objectifying it, not listening to the inner voice and the inner guidance as to what steps are necessary to take. But through doing so with the trine and, you know, self-refining or readjusting through honoring that inner voice, we get to objectify what it is that we're needing to throw off and liberate from, where we've all over-identified with some past trauma of where we felt so wounded and it's affected our self-esteem. And this is retrograde. So there's this relive quality in order to resolve, and it's to get to the bottom of it in order to heal, in order to transform our inner relationship to self. So yes, a lot of things can be coming up regarding our karmic relationships right now. But ultimately, the bottom line is to strengthen our souls and to become soul-centered on some evolutionary level, and to continue to transform our inner relationship to self. It is imperative right now to understand what our values are. Then with Jupiter retrograde, to show up authentically, to show up sincerely, to show up honestly. So Jupiter and the moon are also opposing Mercury and Mars, which are in a balsamic conjunction, which is interesting because now we're pulling in the ruler of Venus, and Venus is the ruler of this eclipse. We're also pulling in, and Venus is the ruler of that south node. So she's ruled by Mercury, and so Venus's ruler, Mercury, is conjunct the north node in Aries ruler, and it's in a balsamic conjunction. So it's emphasizing what is wanting to culminate here. Mercury is about how we classify and define information. It's about gathering information. It's about the messages we receive. Mars is about what we desire on a soul level. What it is we need to put in motion. What do we need to act on to be responsive or be reactive? When we're responsive to a desire, we get to make a choice. Do we want to act on this? Is this in our best interest? Mercury in a balsamic conjunction to it is telling us there are two choices here, two of them. What are you going to do? With Jupiter opposing this retrograde, and we know that this is a karmic dynamic because one, this is Scorpio energy, but this is also an eclipse. What is coming up for you? What are you desiring to do? And how have you defined what constitutes security for you? There is a need to look at this and analyze it and get to the bottom of it and to discern what is the correct choice. Discernment is a Virgo dynamic. Venus and Virgo. Remembering that Pluto is in Capricorn. Capricorn takes that discernment and reflects on prior dynamics and makes a correct judgment call through reflecting and having the wisdom through prior direct experience. And so this is a time to not deny or repress what you've experienced, but as you reflect on the past right now, as karmic dynamics are surfacing, you can discern the information you're getting from what's going on, and then you can make a correct judgment call. And listening to the inner voice through Taurus, a moon in Taurus, and what's emotionally going on inside, the need to strengthen our self-esteem, Pluto and Capricorn, the need to, if I listen to my inner voice, this is actually really beautiful if you think about it, because this is like a natural earth trine. Taurus, if I listen to my inner voice, and in Virgo, I discern what the information is that I'm gathering. In Capricorn, I can ask and answer my own correct questions and make a correct judgment call. And that helps me gain self-esteem and a natural sense of authority, and it's healing. And then it pulls in this dynamic of all the Scorpio energy of I can understand what true authentic power is through relying on myself. Taurus moon, self-reliance. So these dynamics are coming up. There's a lot that's wanting to be liberated. There's a lot that's wanting to be opposed or thrown off. And there's a lot that is wanting to culminate right now. Chiron in Aries is in conjunct Venus. And so these old wounds are really highlighted. Chiron is ruled by this Mars that's in a balsamic conjunction to Mercury. So old wounds around a lack of natural leadership, old power dynamics, and denying the truth, and it creating incorrect choice making can be coming up right now. And it can feel scary, and it can create an immense amount of insecurity right now. This chart really reflects a time for some people of feeling really insecure, because they're sitting on the precipice of evolution, or they're starting to listen to that inner voice. And these are really core bottom line functions. If we're wanting to dissolve old structures and we've denied the inner voice, a way to dissolve old ways of structuring reality and to make new choices is to ground within that inner voice, which is what Taurus is really wanting us to do as a way to throw off old power dynamics, or old codependencies, old imbalances that are surfacing. It can be really scary to have faith. Pisces, Saturn and Pisces, this Neptune in conjunct the South Node in Libra. It can be really scary to have faith in the ability to trust oneself right now if all of this is coming up for you. And there are a couple of things I want us to remember here. One is, when we listen to the inner voice, and not self-criticism, but the inner guidance, and to not buy into conditioning about how we are to deny that. This isn't about listening to outside authority and denying the inner voice. This is about making your own choices for yourself through your own inner guidance that is directly correlated to your soul and your soul's evolution. So we can see that there's something about throwing off external authority here and grounding within our soul and our own soul wisdom through paying attention to that inner voice. That can be very scary for some people. And if that is you, I want you to know that you can do a little. This is something I tell my clients, and I think I've said it maybe on one of these forecasts before, but just reflect. Let's use this energy of this chart. Let's, in a Capricornian way, let's reflect on past experiences of where our inner direction was telling us something. Our intuition, Jupiter conjunct the moon, was telling us something, and we denied it. Venus and Virgo, instead of taking it step by step in a natural sense of honoring that. When you did that and crisis happened, did you think to yourself, man, had I listened to myself, I wouldn't be in this situation? That is how you know you can trust yourself. Oh my gosh, my allergies. Our soul, and this does not matter what stage of evolution you are on. If you think about this, we all emanate from the same thing. So we're all interconnected. You can even look at quantum physics. There's entanglement. That's a huge buzzword. So we can even think about this on that level. But think about this. If we emanate from source, and our soul is a part of that, and the structure that we're in is this body, but a natural inner resource that we all have is the ability to connect with our soul through listening to our inner voice and our inner guidance that is emanating from our soul, which is emanating from that which we come from. That is why we can look back and reflect on the past and be like, man, had I listened to myself, I was actually right. This is a time where there can be a redo and relive of that dynamic. This can be about culminating the dynamic of denying our personal truth and our inner voice and our inner guidance, and the need to oppose and throw off external authority or listening to external authority, and to ground within that inner guidance. And that can be terrifying if you haven't done it or you've been disconnected from it. But with Neptune and Saturn here, Saturn and Pisces, we can have faith. Listen to your intuition, ground within that. It is scary to dive off the high dive. I've said this before. If it's your first time, think about it when you were a kid. You look down and it's terrifying. Can I trust that I'm going to be okay? And then you have faith. You jump. You take the dive. You go into the water and you come up, and there's a sense of, I feel really proud of myself that I did that. That was terrifying, but I feel proud. So I want us to remember and reflect on maybe times where we didn't listen and where we were right. And had you listened, things would have been different. And it's not to create inner guilt or inner judgment. This is about reckoning that we have more wisdom within us than we know. We are connected to something much larger. And that this is about the trust in evolution and to consciously work with it. And what this chart reflects is to rely on yourself. Don't externalize authority. We are all capable of being our own natural authority. And we are all able to make correct judgment calls. And there is a lot coming up for people right now. And I have seen people completely deny reality and buy into an illusion. Saturn, Pisces, Venus and Virgo. And I've also seen people who take that faith, that leap of faith in themselves, and they trust their inner intuition and their inner guidance. With Jupiter here, conjunct the moon, sometimes we know what we know without knowing why we know it. And there's a need to throw off old choice making that revolves around giving our power to something outside of ourselves, and to really, really reconnect and ground into that, and to really forgive ourselves for not listening to ourselves in the past. Like, it's okay. That's a human dynamic. That's your common humanity. You're not wrong. It's about learning. That's how we learn. And so to have forgiveness for self and to use it to propel our evolution and know I can trust myself. And maybe if I feel like I can't right now, let me just try. Let me take the practical steps right in front of me and listen to my, what is it that I'm telling myself here? And then to really just take it step by step. Listen to yourself, act on it. You'll get a little bit of feedback. You'll learn a little bit about yourself. You'll learn to trust yourself more. It will help. There's like this symbiotic relationship that can happen with, if I listen to myself, if I ground in that, if I trust myself, I do it. Then I get to understand what it means to validate myself, what it means to have healthy self-esteem, what it means to trust myself, what it means to connect with my own inner resources of the connection I have with my soul. The illusion is that we don't have that when we do. And so this chart just really, I know I keep kind of harping on this, but I've been seeing so many people lately that they're terrified of doing what it is that like their soul is whispering to them through their inner voice right now. And they're denying it, because it's challenging what constitutes the inner security. And then whenever we start to dive into that, it's looking at that inner psychology and that inner emotional dynamic of, I've been getting my needs met the way that I've been taught, and that's really not in alignment with who I am, but I don't know a different way. And so then the need to reconnect with that and know that you do know the right way. It's just we've been taught to really deny that. So this is a time to reckon that and to culminate these long-standing dynamics of where, when we haven't listened to ourselves or we've denied reality, that it's really perpetuated a loss of our inner authority and power dynamics and struggles and feelings of abandonment and betrayal, where had we listened to ourselves, maybe some of that would still happen, but we would still have emotional validation, because it's like, yeah, I knew that that was something that could happen. I want us to really be gentle with ourselves during this time. I mean, I think so many of us are having so much come up. And the other thing I want to mention is Venus is conjunct her own planetary north node. The south node of Venus is in Scorpio. Yeah. And it's at 22, so it's kind of in this stellium. It's at the end of this stellium of Scorpio. So these are long-standing relational dynamics of a karmic nature where imbalances have happened when you pull this in all together, revolving around what we desire, our choice making, and our ability to really understand our inner dynamics on a soul level, and the need to now tap into that inner voice as a way to throw off the old, to dissolve these old structures, and then to listen to ourselves as a way to create a sense of emotional maturity, inner security. And with Venus conjunct her own north node, and Venus being the ruler of the lunar south node, and Venus being a ruler of Uranus, Jupiter, and the moon right now, this whole eclipse, is that there is so much healing that can happen right now if you consciously work with this, and to not feel victimized by life if something's happening. It's about, oh, I called this in to learn a deep lesson here, and by God, I'm going to reflect on it, so that way I can get to where I need to be. And having, just that Jupiter there on the moon is going to help us all see that light at the end of the tunnel if we're really feeling crisis right now. And so let's all think about how healing all of this is, and that it really serves to benefit us all, no matter what is going on. There are long-standing core karmic dynamics wanting to close. That is hard. That means that things that have constituted our inner security, what we've been doing for a very long time, is wanting to close so we can start a new evolutionary chapter. Remember, you are your own authority, and you've got this, and it's okay. And I am someone who has gone through so much in my life, and I'm saying that to let you know that I'm actually grateful for the Plutonian confrontations that I have had, because they have helped me regain a sense of inner authority. And if I can do it, you guys can do it. And I'm not done. It's not like, oh, I got this. I'm not perfect. It's still a journey for me. But I think whenever I see powerful core dynamics like this, and I see my clients going through things that are indicative of this, and it's like, oh man, I've been there. It's like, I just want to give the gift that I've received through grace. And this is me doing that by telling you guys about what this astrology is reflecting, and sometimes bringing in my own prior experiences and the wisdom I've gained through them. And I just want you guys to know that, like, things don't happen for no reason, and they can feel really, 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 really crappy or really uncomfortable. But the more and more you deal with a dynamic, the easier it gets, because you bring a tool into the mix, and then it circles back around, and you have that tool from the last time, and each time it gets easier and easier. And so we learn to work with evolution instead of against it. And instead of things being crisis, they become just a little uncomfortable. Like, you're able to go with the flow. And that's really this Pisces energy that's being brought into this chart right now. And it's the polarity point of this Venus that's ruling all of this, is the sign of Pisces. It's about learning to go with the flow of evolution, and that there's something really healing at every time we're confronted with something, to surrender to that process and to listen to ourselves, and then take it step by step. You take the first step, and the information will get presented to you about what it is you're needing to do next. And then you take it. And then it just keeps repeating, and it gets easier and easier. And so I just want you guys to know that if you're going through something really, really tough, or really, really hard, or something you feel is really traumatizing, or you're recalling it, this is because on an evolutionary level, you're wanting to grow. We only grow through the emotional body. And sometimes it takes re-entering that fracture, and to not repress the emotional dynamics, but to really, really feel it, even if it's painful, and to understand the why. And then we come out on the other side and we actually feel kind of grateful for that experience. And so this is what this Taurus lunar eclipse is highlighting: throwing off the old and grounding within, you know, our own sovereignty and our own relationship to self, and our ability to trust ourselves. So I hope you all have a beautiful Taurus lunar eclipse. If this is a tough one for you, I am giving you a big hug energetically, and sending you love, and telling you that it will work out, and you are more capable than you know, and you keep going. It's okay if you mess up. You just keep going. I will see you all next week.